Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be doing a get ready with me style video, and we're going to be using some items I've used for quite a while, like the Dior Forever Hydra Nude Foundation, Cure Weiss blush, as well as some newer items. And none of these items are first impressions. I have tried everything before this video. We have things like the new Sarah Creal bronzer, the new shade of her sunscreen. We have the NARS eyeshadow sticks. And we also have the LYS Glossy Balm Sticks. So we're going to be taking a look at a variety of things today. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So we're going to go in order of application today, and as I am talking about the products, I'll be showing you the application clips here. So this is the Sarah Creal Brilliant Repair Shield, and there are two shades available in this. We have Staycation and Vacation. So I do have a video where I have used Vacation. It was too deep for me, so I gave it to a friend of mine. So I no longer have that one, but I did purchase that when that first came out. This one here was gifted to me, and this is going to be a new lighter shade. So this just came out, I want to say about a month ago, and you can see that this is going to be a soft golden shade. So we definitely have some yellow in here, and as you're looking at the clip, this is a little deep for me still. I do prefer something a little bit lighter. So it's not a sunscreen that I wear on its own. However, once I go ahead and I put the foundation on, you know, it's not something that is noticeable color-wise. So although it's a little bit too deep for me on its own, it works well underneath product. A little bit more about this product. It retails for $64 US. It has 1 ounce of product, and it's made in the US. This is described as a weightless 100% mineral sunscreen serum that delivers broad spectrum SPF and repair while it creates radiant glow without a white cast. It's vegan, gluten-free, cruelty-free, and reef safe. The major SPF ingredient here is a patented zinc oxide of 12%, which is said to protect against 98% of UV radiation with an invisible feel. In other terms, it's SPF 50, it's a non-nano zinc oxide, and is also water resistant for up to 40 minutes. Overall, I think this is a really nice sunscreen formula. I haven't had any issues using this underneath any foundations or other like skin tints or anything like that. So it seems to work well with other products. And I think it's a really great formula. I love the round packaging. I think it is something like kind of easy to hold. It looks nice, something to throw in your bag. Personally, for me, I do feel like the price point is a little high for me to use as my daily sunscreen. So it's more of like a, you know, if I were going to splurge on a sunscreen. So overall, I think that's a great sunscreen. As I said, it's a little deep for me still, you know, to use on its own. But as you can see here, I'm using the Dior Forever Hydra Nude Foundation in shade 0N. For concealer, I used the Valentino concealer, which is my favorite lightening brightening concealer. I wear shade LIGR2. I like to put that on underneath, you know, kind of as my base, and then put my foundation on top to kind of minimize any sort of blending marks or anything like that. So you can see that the Dior foundation, it goes on very nicely. It's lighter than the sunscreen, so it does cover that well, and we don't have any sort of, you know, golden tones really shining through from the sunscreen. While I'm preparing my base for today, I'm also applying the Trish McEvoy eye primer, and I have shade Demure. I'm using the same brush that I used for my concealer, which is the Rephr 36. This is going to be kind of like an angled 3D shape brush. And for the foundation, I'm using a BK Beauty in 101. And this is actually the travel size version of the brush. And then I decided not to powder anything today. We're going to stick with more of a dewy look. And we're going to go in with the Sarah Creal Cream Bronzer. So before we move on to swatches of that, let me just swatch these base products here. So this is the Valentino Concealer in LIGR2, which is one of my favorites. This is going to give you light coverage and a little bit of a brightening effect without being like glittery or oily looking. And this is the Dior Hydra Nude in 0N. And this is a really nice foundation. So I've used this for a while. I have to say it hasn't wowed me as much as the Dior foundation stick. That I absolutely loved this new version of the stick, and I actually use that more frequently. With this Dior foundation, I do find that sometimes on those hotter days, if I get like, a little sweaty or something, I do sometimes have a little breakup of the product. And so it's not a go-to, but I do like it. And it's one that I use, I'd say fairly often, but maybe it's like my fourth most used. My top few would be the mix that I do, the 50-50 mix of the Cle de Peau Radiant, the Radiant Matte, and the Radiant Natural foundation. I do a 50-50 mix of those in shade I-10. I also have been using the Prada LC5 and then the Dior stick in 0N. Those are kind of my top three right now. So this would probably fall right after that. And then this here is the Trish McEvoy eye primer. And I find that I like to prefer apply this with a brush. So I dab this on the lid, and it comes in a variety of shades. And then I like to blend it out with a brush. And you can see there's just a tiny bit of shimmer in this, so it's not going to be flat. There is like the tiniest bit of micro glitter in there. But it has become my go-to eye primer. It does a great job of camouflaging anything on the lids, preparing the lids, and prolonging wear of specific products and so forth. And just adding, sometimes you have those lighter shades, it helps make them just pop a little bit more. So I've been really enjoying that as an all-purpose eye primer. So again, these are the base shades. We have the Valentino Concealer in LIGR2, Dior Hydro Nude in 0N, and Trish McEvoy Eye Primer in Demure. So let's take a look at the Sarah Creal bronzer. So this is a relatively new product. I want to say this came out maybe a month or so ago, and there are 3 shades. I have shade 1.0. This is called Just Like Paradise, the actual product. You can see here, this is our packaging, and this is like a heavy duty plastic packaging. We do have a mirror here, and it's a magnetic closure. I really like the packaging. I think it's nice and chic. Our cream product, you can see it's going to be very silky and smooth. Pardon me for all of the cuts in the video, but my allergies have been terrible. So, I kind of try to cut out any coughing or sneezing. So this is shade 1.0. And you can see it is going to be a nude golden brown, but we do have, it's a little bit cooler still than a lot of others. So we still have kind of that like yellowish orange hue that we see with a lot of bronzers, but there's a little bit more of a reddish tone to it than what we typically see. So I actually really like this shade. Let's take a look at this one. So as we're looking at this applied on the right side, I wanted to go with something very natural. This is how I typically wear it, just kind of blend it out a little bit on the back of the cheekbone. And I usually use my foundation brush for it. And I get a very light, soft, natural look where, it's really just adding a little bit of accentuation, but it's not noticeable per se. On the left side, I want to show you what the color looks like built up, and then I kind of just evened it out for today's look. So overall though, I have to say I really enjoy this bronzer, and it's one that I've been using a lot. I do not use bronzer every day. My favorite is still the Gucci 01 because I just think that color is fantastic for my complexion. It's going to be a little bit more pink. But this is currently my favorite cream bronzer because I think the formula just blends out so nicely. It stays put, and I think it works great. So I honestly have been using this a lot paired with the new Armani Radiant Cheek Blushes, the liquid blushes. So this bronzer was gifted to me, and just a few product details. It retails for $50 US. It's made in Korea. We have 4.2 grams of product, and it's free of quite a few different ingredients. You can see the whole list on the Sarah Creal website or the Sephora website, but things like mineral oil, retinol palmitate, trichlocarbon. It also has less than 1% synthetic fragrance, and it's gluten-free and cruelty-free. According to Sarah Creal, it's a sheer buildable formula utilizing proprietary Korean technology and a trio of skin-loving ingredients to help deliver lasting hydration and support skin's elasticity. It says no vacation needed. It's described as a mistake-proof, buildable silk cream bronzer that floats over skin with a natural finish, and it wears for 12 hours. I would have to say all of that is true for me. You know, I've been wearing this one, you know, quite a bit for the last month, and I love the way it goes on. It really is kind of that silky, creamy texture, but it will kind of set down in your skin. It's more like it sinks in, it's absorbed by your skin, and it does last on me all day. And I think it's a really beautiful finish. I love how sheer you can get this, because even though it's still kind of a warm tone, because I can sheer that out so much, I can still get the level of warmth that I want without looking like I have an orange bronzer on. So just a few quick comparisons here. This is the Gucci in 01, which, as I mentioned, is my personal favorite. I'm going to do these so you can see it's going to be a little bit rosier, but you can see there's definitely a kind of like a correlation with the shade. So although the Gucci has a little bit more pink in it, the Sarah Creal here, it's warmer, but not as warm as some others that we've seen. This is the Dior in pink bronze that came out last year. And honestly, I never reach for this one because it's just a little bit too orange for my skin tone. And although this is a contour stick, I did want to share the Westman Atelier in Biscuit. And again, contour is meant to be cooler, so you can see the difference here. So I hope those were helpful. Then after applying the bronzer, I just wanted to brighten up the cheeks a little bit with some blush. So for blush, I went in with the LYS cream blush in the shade Happy, and I love LYS cream blushes. They are some of my favorites. You can see this is going to be a nice cool tone pop of pink. So as you can see me applying this, I am using, again, the foundation brush. I'm just using a tiny bit of this because it is kind of that poppy color. And I just kind of want to blend it in a little bit for a soft flush. And I think it's such a beautiful product. If you haven't tried LYS cream blushes, I love them. I think they're one of the best cream blushes on the market. They are a little bit more of a stiffer cream product when you first touch it. It goes on nicely. You can sheer them out, you can build them up, and they last all day. I personally think that they are LYS's best product, and they don't really get talked about enough, but it's definitely a go-to product for me that I have repurchased for many years. Now, just a few things to note about the LYS blushes. You purchase the packaging and the refill separately. There are actually two different packaging options. So the refills retail for $32 US, and then there's a red cardboard packaging, which is supposed to last through several refills before you might want to replace it. And that with the blush retails for $40 US. If you purchase it with the metal case that I have here, this is a heavy duty metal case that retails for $56 US. We have certified organic skincare ingredients and so forth in here. So it is clean beauty. I do find though that they last well past their expiration date, and they are just really a great cream blush. So let's go ahead and move on to the highlighter here, where I decided I wanted to use one of my favorite liquid highlighters, which is the Armani Luminous Silk. So I am using shade 1, and this is going to be a sheer white. And you can see that it's going to add just a little bit of a sheen to it. There is a little bit of glitter in this though. So personally, I like to dab this on the back of my hand, then use a finger to dip into it and tap it on. And it just adds like a nice gleam without being overpowering. I have a couple shades in this formula, and it's one of my favorites. So just a few details about the Armani highlighter. It retails for $39 US. As I mentioned, I have shade 1 Halo here, which is described as a translucent pearl. And this is a multi-purpose water-based highlighter. It lasts all day. It has a little bit of that like vinyl texture where, you know, it feels nice and smooth and silky going on, and then it really just kind of sets and stays put. So I think it's a really beautiful product. Let's go ahead and move on to the eyes. And this time we're taking a look at the NARS eye crayons, and we're looking at some new shades in their shimmer formula. So I have used the matte formula for the NARS sticks in the past, and I absolutely love them because they stay put really well, but their color range, you know, needs to be improved in my opinion. This here is going to be the shade Living Sin, and let me just show you how that blends out here. You can see you can really get kind of a soft buffed look with this. It's smooth, it's silky, it's creamy. It's definitely a little bit creamier than the matte formula, and it blends out very well. So this shade here is Wired, and this is kind of like a soft lavender shade. It's pretty light though. I was hoping there'd be a little bit more color from this one than there is. Let's take a look at the demo for this one. Now, just like the matte shades, these do last all day on my lids without creasing. They retail for about $32 US. There's an 18-month shelf life with these. We have 1.6 grams of product, and these are made in the US. As I mentioned, texturally, these feel a little silkier, a little creamier than the matte formula. But again, performance is really great on these. The only sort of, it's not really a complaint, but just something to know about the formula is it really does sheer out super easily. So you kind of want to build up that color if you want more pigmentation. Using a fingertip application works better than a brush, or even just applying directly with the stick, because directly with the stick, you know, you want to smooth it out a little bit. So I would recommend doing that with a fingertip application. But I do think that overall, you know, it's a really beautiful formula. I just wish that the pigmentation was just slightly stronger on these. I feel like the pigmentation in the matte sticks is just a little bit stronger. It's not that the colors necessarily are deeper. Some of them are, of course, but it's more just that they don't sheer out quite to the same level as the shimmer sticks do. So that being said, I still really enjoy these. I wish the Wired shade, the lavender, was a little bit darker than it is. It's very light. It's great for that inner corner pop, you know, to blend out with another color. But honestly, you're not going to get much color directly on your lid from that particular shade. My favorite of these two is the Living Sin, which is a really beautiful soft brown. And it looks a little bit more of a peachy brown when you buff it out, but it's a pretty neutral. When you build it up, you have a little bit more of that cooler brown look to it. And I think it's a really beautiful shade. So overall, I'm really happy with these eyeshadow sticks. All right, so I just wanted to go over a few comparisons here. And this here is the NARS matte shade Don't Touch. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this one right up here, but you can see, you know, this is gonna be more creamy versus silky in texture. So this also buffs out very nicely and sheerly, but I would still say that the transparency level is higher in the shimmer formula. And you can see that the matte formula gives you more of that blurred lid effect. Now, I did want to go through a couple comparisons. This here is going to be the Bobbi Brown in Smoky Topaz, which is one of my most used shades. You can see this is going to be a bit more of a taupe. It's cooler. It's got a little bit more gray in there, and it's a little rosier as well compared to Living Sin. And then I also wanted to look at the Victoria Beckham in Shroom. This is another one that I really enjoy. That's more of a taupe. So you can see it's going to be a little bit cooler in tone than Living Sin. Living Sin is a bit more of a golden brown, but yet it's still in the neutral range. So I really like that because, you know, on my skin tone, cooler tones typically look a little bit better, or, you know, soft warm tones. And I just love how I can still get that golden glow while still maintaining a neutral undertone. A few other comparisons here. This is Victoria Beckham in Macaron, which is going to be like a matte pink. I wanted to go ahead and put that with the Wired shade. You can see this is definitely going to be more of a cool tone bubblegum pink. And in Bobbi Brown, this is Sunrise Pink, which this is going to be a warm golden pink versus our Wired, which is almost like a pinky lavender or pinky lilac. And then we have Addiction Tokyo, and this is shade number 1, Crush on Me. And again, this is going to be more pink as well. and it's going to be warmer in tone, but you can see this is also going to be very light. Not quite as light as the NARS, but close. So I hope those were helpful. And then to finish off the eyes, I did just want to touch base on the Burberry mascara. I did also use, and to finish up the eyes, I used the Prada eyeliner in Ember, which is one of my go-tos. You can see it's a really beautiful taupey brown shade. Really great. It's become like an everyday product for me. Then I want to touch back on the Burberry Beyond Volume mascara because I've now been using this for several months. I don't use it every day, but yeah, I do like this mascara a lot. And you know, it's several months old now, not quite up to its expiration yet, but you can see we do have kind of like a wider spaces in this wand, which allows you to really build up the volume. And it's more of a wet formula. So even now after several months, it really hasn't dried out very much. And it's really easy, you know, to get a high volume look. I like to go in with just one layer, which is what I have on today. And it's just more of a lighter separated look, but I think it's a really nice mascara. So this is one that I will typically use for like a night out when I want to pile on a little bit more drama on the lashes. Next, we're going to take a look at the LYS Glossy Balm Sticks. And these, again, are a relatively new product. And I purchased 2 of the 3 that I have here, and one of them was gifted to me. So this first shade here is Truthful. And I mean, that kind of a messy swatch, but look, when I swipe this, you can see it's basically liquid gloss in a tube. It's a very, very soft formula. Now, about the packaging, we do have your traditional LYS triangular packaging, and this is going to be a click, but it does not go back down. So just something to note. Now, I don't love the triangle because I do end up making a mess on the sides of this tube. So I typically have to like wipe it off. So it's just a personal issue. I'm sure other people are neater than I am, but I really like the formula here. So this is Visionary, and all 3 of the shades that I got are kind of similar to each other. You can see Visionary here is a little bit warmer, but they are pretty close. This one just has a little bit more of a warmer red hue to it in comparison. And then we have, oh, this is the first one, Truthful again. Then we have CEO, which is what's on my lips right now, which is, it reminds me of a soft watermelon red. And this one's the most different of the 3 that I have here. So you can see this one here is CEO. So they don't swatch super well because they are like so glossy. Let's look at these on the lips and you can get a better idea of the product. So these are the Speak Love Lip Plumping Glossy Lip Balm. They retail for $19 US. We have 2.5 grams of product. These are vegan, gluten-free, and cruelty-free. We have a 1-year shelf life and they are PETA approved. These are described as an ultra-nourishing, high-shine, juicy lip balm that hydrates and visibly plumps in one swipe. Now, I've been wearing the shade Truthful on and off for a while now, and I have to say I do really like this formula. Although it's a plumping glossy balm, I wouldn't say that I notice any plumping with this. When I put it on about maybe a minute or so after application, I feel a very slight minty tingliness, but it's very slight. Like, if I'm not paying attention, I don't always notice it. So if you're familiar with the mintiness in a Dior Lip Maximizer, it's, I don't know, maybe half that or less than half of that. You know, so it's a pretty mild tingly sensation, which personally I like. So I think it's a really beautiful product. It really gives you the look of a gloss, but it has a little bit more of a balmy texture when you have it on the lips. So it does feel a bit more reparative than a traditional gloss, and it's not sticky at all. It's very smooth. I think it's a really beautiful formula. My only complaint really is the triangular packaging. Although a triangle shape can really help you, define your lips with a firmer product like a lipstick, with this glossy product, because it has so much movement during application, I find that I make a little bit of a mess. So, perhaps it's just me, but I I feel like the shape here doesn't work as well with this particular formula. However, I have to say, I think it's a really great formula. I really enjoy these. To me, they're most similar to the Hourglass Glossy Balms. So let me just go ahead and share. This is the shade Trace in Hourglass. You can see it's also a twist up. I would say though, between the two of these, the Hourglass formula is perhaps not, I mean, you can see it has just as much of a glossy sheen and finish and so forth, but the actual texture of it going on, this feels slightly stiffer than the LYS, which just feels a little more glossy per se, a little bit more wet. So that's really the major difference between the two, but I would say this would be my closest comparison. So again, these are the shades. This is Hourglass and Trace. And then these two right here, this is Truthful, this is Visionary, and this is CEO. So you can see that Truthful is going to be kind of like a cool mauve, but it's going to be more neutral than cool tone. Whereas Visionary is more of like its warmer counterpart. We have a little bit of a brick red hue kind of mixed in there. And then we have a soft red, more of like a watermelon red in CEO. So I hope this has been helpful. Let's do a quick summary of everything we talked about today. All right, so we start off with the Sarah Creal sunscreen in Staycation, the new lighter shade. And I think this is a nice sunscreen. For me, it's a little bit too deep still to wear on its own, but it's one that I can wear as a base underneath other products like a foundation or even a skin tint. And I personally really like the formula. It pairs well with other products. So that is a really nice product. Then we went in and I used some of my favorite base items, such as the Valentino concealer and LIGR2, which this is my, I don't know, second or third tube of this since it's come out. So it's definitely one of my favorites. And the Dior Forever Hydra Nude Foundation, which, you know, this is one that I really like when I'm wearing more of that dewy look on my skin and I'm using a lot of cream or liquid products. So I think this is a really nice foundation here. And then the Trish McAvoy Eye Primer in Demure. Then we moved in and we took a look at the Sarah Creal Cream Bronzer in shade 1.0. And I'm really loving this. This is my favorite cream bronzer formula so far. And I just love how much you can sheer it out, how naturally it blends with other products, and it lasts all day. So I think it's a really great product. It does come in 3 different shades. I have the lightest, but I think shade 2 would also work for me, and that looks like it's a little bit cooler in tone than shade 1. And then I moved in with a Kjaer Weis cream blush, which is one of my favorites. I use those all the time during the summer. I used the shade Happy today for just a little bit of a pop, and you can see how well it blends with the Sarah Creal bronzer as well. And I also used the Armani liquid highlighter in shade number 1, Halo, to give just a little bit of illumination here without looking striking. So even though there's a little bit of shimmer, you don't really see the micro pearls in it, and it just gives a nice light reflection. And then we took a look at the NARS Shimmer Sticks in Living Sin and Wired, and the pigmentation level is a little bit lighter than I would prefer. I'd prefer them to go on just a little bit darker, but they sheer out very well. So, you know, I just wish maybe they didn't sheer out quite as much as they do, but I really do enjoy the colors, particularly the Living Sin. So I know that one in particular will definitely be a go-to. The Wired shade, since it is so light, I'll probably use that more as like an inner corner pop or to blend with other shades to kind of lighten and cool things off. So I think they're really beautiful. And honestly, the Wired shade, if you're going for like a no makeup day, but you just want to make your eyes just look slightly better, blending this out on the eyes just brightens them a little bit without looking like you actually have makeup on your eyes. So I do like it for that as well. And then I paired that with the Prada Ember eyeliner, which is a go-to for me, as well as the Burberry Beyond Volume mascara, which is one that I really like even after all these months here. And I didn't mention this, but brows were the Byredo pencil in Sand. Then for the lips, I have on the shade CEO from LYS. I think they're a really nice glossy balm, And I love having them in a stick formula because it just makes it like nice and easy to carry. But the triangular shape does make the application a little bit messier for me just because I'm not very good with that particular shape. So I hope this has been helpful. And again, thank you so much to LYS who sent me one of the Glossy Balm sticks, and Sarah Creal who sent me the sunscreen and the bronzer. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon. I hope you have a wonderful day.